Hello guys, I'm going to show you how to create forms in React with access to input values. First of all, we need to create our React app. I have already done that. Let me just go to the source directory and take a look at our app.js. As you can see, there's a very simple layout here. And let's just run our project. Okay, as you can see, the h1 tag is displaying, so everything is alright. On the source directory, let's create another directory called components, because I'm going to create my forms in a separated component. And inside components, let's create a new file for a component called formController.js. I'm going to define my forms here. All right, let's import React and component from React. Perfect. And here we have to export our component class. Export class form controller. Okay. And this component extends components. Perfect. And we need to call render. And here would be the return value. Okay. And inside return value, we are going to have our HTML things. Okay. Doesn't really matter what we have. I'm going to put something very simple, something like a text from here. Save the changes and go to our app.js and import these components. Import a form controller. Okay. Add a complete help me, and let's put the tag of the component right here so we can actually render the elements right here in our app.js. Okay, as you can see, it displays on the main page, which is what I want. So let's create our main layouts here. Well, I'm going to have a form here. Let's create a form tag. Inside of it, I'm going to have a couple of fields, something like for name and an input for name. And input type will be text. Make sure you put the curly braces. And I also need one for password. Let me just copy this. Okay, password. And the type of it would be password. And make sure you put both curly braces and double quotes. Okay. And this is our form. Yeah, let's make some functionality so we can actually access our inputs so we can control them. Let's create a constructor here. Let's say constructor, and okay, our constructor is going to have a props argument. If you are not familiar with these props things, just don't mind and use them as I'm using them here. And you don't need to know something more about it, at least here. And super props. Okay, here I need to create a state with the input fields in my form. So let's say this state is equal to the fields which was one for the name, and the default value is an empty string, and one for the password. The default is empty string. Okay. The first thing we have to do is to set these state values to our input values. So we have to call our value attribute in our inputs, and value is curly braces, this state, and then the name of the field, which is name. Okay. Similar thing for the password. Let me just paste it here. Okay. But the state field is password. Let's just take a look at our browser. As you can see, if I type here, nothing gets changed because I have set the value, which is an empty string, on our inputs. So I need to fix this somehow, and I'm going to use unchanged. So whenever the value of our input changes, the input field will get changed asynchronously, and a function is going to do that. So we're going to call a function called, for example, change name. We're going to implement it later, and the same thing for the password, but the function would be change password, for example. So let's implement this, guys. And first would be change name, right under our constructor, is equal to an error function, and the argument is event. Okay, the function body would be uh, this state, and the name value of the state would be the event target value, which is the value of our event. Okay, and we have to copy this for our password. Paste it here. Okay, the function for the password was change password, so let me just modify it. Okay, and the field is password. Let's change this, and okay, let's take a look. Oops. Let me take a look. Okay, all we have to do is to change the state to set state. For some reason I was mistaken here. Okay, let's take another look. Yeah, and as you can see, our inputs are working as normal. Okay, and the last step to complete our form is to add a button to submit it. So let's create the layout first. A button, submit, and the type would be submit. And in order to make this submission functional, we need to add to our form tag an attribute called onSubmit, which is going to trigger a function while the form is submitted. And the function would be called something like submit form, maybe. And let's define our submit form. For example, no, it doesn't need to be so complicated at first. Let me just submit form is going to be an arrow function. Event is here, and the body would be, just console.log the state name and the state password, the value of our name and password. Okay, let's take a look. And before inputting, let's go through the developer mode and the console. Okay, all right, let's input. And when I submit, I have to see the value. Well, it's not actually possible because when submitting, the page refreshes and there's actually no chance to see the output. So we have to call a function called prevent default on our event here. So the page is not refreshed, and let's take a look. Alright, as you can see, the page is not refreshed and we can see the outputs right here. And that would be all. It's a reactive form in a simplest way, and I hope you learn how to create reactive forms in React, and thanks for watching.